Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the refirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Got another interesting, very, very educational and entertaining show coming up here quickly. Rob Helm, my buddy, will be in here. The Refired Life of Rob Helm, Functional Remodeling, Quality Vision Construction, plus. We got a lot of things to cover in this one. But first, I want to remind everybody that Jamie White was here last week. Jamie White, one of our sponsors. Let's talk law. He is a very well-known attorney in the mid-Michigan area. The guy has done it all. We talked about clergy abuse and did a little hunter, non-hunter. And Jamie's just a cool guy to talk to. I mean, he's just a really good dude, and just enjoyed the heck out of that one. So if you're looking for someone that you can trust in the law business, any of our guests, as you know, like what I like to say when we bring guests in the show, everybody's reputation is excellent. We hang our hat on in our integrity, and that's how we roll here, and that's that. All right. This week, we got a newbie coming in. Rob Helm is a buddy of mine. He is a general contractor. Got a long bio here. Let me do him some justice here. Graduated from Baldwin High School in 1996. He's doing his thing. He's been working since he was like 12. I mean, the guy's just been doing it all. Educated, contractor, HVAC, dad, great husband. His success in the HVAC industry, which, if any of you are skilled tradespersons like I am, refired skilled trades, HVAC is very, very complicated, and it can be very intense, and the work itself is very physical. So to know the right people to do like furnace installations, air handling systems, like at Michigan State, all of that kind of stuff is very, very intense. All of his experience led him to being an adjunct professor teaching at Lansing Community College, ultra high efficiency heating systems. That's something that I did not know, which I always am interested to read my guest bios and find out what they've done in their lives. He's been around. Rob, and I don't want to bring Rob in just yet, but after 8 years in the field, this is coming right off the bio, everybody. Rob retired from the HVACR industry in 2003 to pursue an international basketball career and learn international methods of construction in South Africa, of all things. That's so interesting to me. He definitely is an athlete, and we'll be doing some work together as far as training. And, you know, when you get to that point in your life when you're starting to have these milestone birthdays coming up here, and that's, you know what I do. Papa Tom, he's out there. He's coaching people up left and right, getting people fired up. Rob returned to the U.S. in 2004, became a state licensed general contractor, which leads us to many different things he has here. But more than that, in his refired life, he's been an inventor. We're going to talk about some of the things that he's invented later in the show. But for you out there who's looking for a contractor specializing, and we're going to cover kitchens, bathrooms, customer service, which in the contracting business, in the skilled trades industry, you got to have a good reputation as customer service. In 2012, Rob also teamed up with his wife, Linda Way, who I know very well, and his children to form Written by Kids Publishing Company, which is outstanding. The company was established by Rob's then 10-year-old daughter. How do you say that, Rob?
You pronounce it Kiasi.
All right, Kiasi. So the N is silent. Okay, Kiasi, to promote bullying prevention, youth literacy, positive morals, and ethics. What a wonderful concept to come up with. And then we'll talk more about this later, but a big part of the show, fifth segment for sure, is when Rob conceived of his second invention, not to begrudge his first one, but his second one is so cool with all sports headgear. And I'm going to model mine in the fifth segment. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to the radio show and you want to see it, you're going to have to go to YouTube. You're going to have to look at it, or you can go to my TikTok or wherever. I've got a couple of videos up there on all this. Without much further ado, I'm going to bring in here, talk to my friend Rob Helm, talking about quality vision construction, the refired life of Rob Helm, functional remodeling. I want to welcome to the show, Rob Helm. Rob, welcome to the radio program.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, you did me a lot of justice on the bio, so I thank you for that.
Well, you know what, you got. I mean, I could read these whole things for you guys, and it's like, but we got to get to the nitty gritty and talk about you. You're my subject matter expert, and being a former skilled tradesperson, you're always a skilled tradesperson once you're a skilled tradesperson. But it's like, as far as the contracting goes and home remodeling, I've been looking for someone like you for a long time. We've had a couple of potentials, but I see you becoming kind of a go-to guy for us to help promote and help people figure out how to save money. And so, but before we get into all of the contracting stuff with Quality Vision Construction, let's do the This Is Your Life bio. This is the thing for you. Get warmed up, talk about the fam, mention all the kids' names, ages, all that good stuff. Talk about Linda Way. Please go right ahead. Go ahead, my man.
All right. Well, thank you again for this opportunity. I'm very, very grateful. As you said, my wonderful wife, Dr. Linda Way Helm, great MSU, contributor, right? Just like yourself, sir. So that's awesome.
She's a testament. She is a very, very big part of the team at the IT department at MSU as assistant director for my former department. So she is a unbelievable person. Yes,
that is my best friend and my wife. And we've been married now for, we're working on 24 years. It's unbelievable because my oldest, Kiasi, the one you just talked about, just turned 23. And so, my wife and I, we met when I was 23. So it's kind of one of those milestone, if you will. And so we have 5 wonderful children. I was blessed with 4 girls and a wonderful son as well. And my oldest is 23, oldest daughter. And my next oldest is my son, and he just turned 21. So I'm starting to age out now.
Well, that's what we were talking about. And not to skip ahead, everybody, about the radio program, but Rob and I were talking about some training issues and these milestone birthdays. We'll talk about that later as we get going here. But Rob totally bought in. I mean, he totally gets it. He's watched my dad talk videos. He understands what we're doing here. What's your son's name?
My son's name is Jonasi, and that's with a J. And all of my children have traditional South African names after their mother because my wife is from South Africa. So that was really a great opportunity for us to kind of merge those 2 cultures together. So then I have 3 other daughters that are following my son. And my next oldest, she just turned 19. She's a graduate from LCC as well. And she actually, I named her after my wife. So her name is Lindy Way as well. So I call her Linda Way Jr. And then my 4th oldest daughter, her name is Shalati. And that name is, one very traditional. That's a lot of family members on my wife's side has. So that has a lot of meaning to it. And then my little bitty girl, she is 8 and her name is Kinsani. And that's my little bundle of joy. She's the family, I don't know, I'm just going to call her a family heirloom or something because she's got everybody's handprints on her and she's just a wonderful kid. So
I've heard stories about that one, from Linda Way. Hey, we got a couple minutes before we go to break here, Rob, coming up on it actually in a minute. Set up where you want to go with this, the rest of the show, talking about Quality Vision Construction and helping people. Where do you see this going? Give me about 30 seconds on that, and we'll come back and we'll finish those threads.
Okay. Well, what I'm hoping to be able to do is, one, let folks know that Quality Vision Construction is here located in Central Michigan, that we specialize in working with residential and light commercial homes, and that our real niche is customer service. We really like to engage with the customer, educate the customer, learn from the customer so that we ultimately can help the customer make the best choice when it comes down to projects or alterations of their home.
There you go. Very short and sweet. Thank you for doing that. I'll carry this through because we're going to come to break here. Let me reset this, everybody. Rob Helm's here with me. He's a good friend of mine. Functional Remodeling, the Refired Life of Rob Helm. And you'll see as we go through this episode why I chose that title when I threw in the Refired Life of Rob Helm and Functional Remodeling, because it's very important to have different paths in your life. And Rob has done this throughout his life, and he's continuing to do this, and we hope to inspire people to do more of this. Again, Functional Remodeling, the Refired Life of Rob Helm, Quality Vision Construction. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
This segment of The Tom Matt Show is brought to you in part by The Source of Light and Power by band leader Archibald and broadcaster Mitch Anderson. Hear the sound that is endorsed by Odyssey headphones, linear tube audio, RME converters, and Peluso microphones at sourceoflightandpower.bandcamp.com. This is The Tom Matt Show.
This segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Craig Stiles, Ameriprise Financial. We have all of our retirement zone savings all compiled, all put together with Craig at Ameriprise, and it's doing fantastic. He's got that Desideri Analytics algorithm that really puts Craig over the top. And again, as I say, full disclosure, we have all of that retirement zone money. Craig has been a sponsor of ours. Obviously, I'm doing a read for him for our show. He has been a supporter of ours for a long time. He's just a wonderful guy. He is our Ameriprise financial advisor, and hopefully yours someday. He can help you plan for the life you want today and well into the future. He's done this. Many people at the university who I still see when I'm doing my consulting work at the university and coaching up some of the students I see out there, I still have people asking me about Craig Stiles. They ask me about him all the time, and every time I send somebody to Craig Stiles, they're very happy with the way that he manages their funds. And that's the whole point of it. It's a complicated deal, but with Desideri Analytics, we are making light of weighted decisions. That's his tagline for Desideri, and that is his proprietary algorithm. Phone numbers coming at you here, everybody. 1-800-528-1355, 517-483-4893. Email craig.stiles@ampf.com. His offices are located 2400 Lake Lansing Road. Suite B is in Brilliant, or B is in Lansing, Michigan, 48912. Here are some stations that have carried us in the past that we started with. The Michigan Talk Network, of course, is the primary driver for everything that we do. We do have some independents as well that pick up the radio program. And, of course, then we have the podcast. But WGHN 92.1 FM in Grand Haven was the very first station ever to carry us on broadcast radio, thanks to Will Team and Wendy Hart. We're very, very grateful for that opportunity. That put us in the spotlight for other radio opportunities, because you got to have one opportunity before you can have the second opportunity. You guys know how this works. But then there's WJIM 1240 AM in Lansing, Michigan, the flagship of the Michigan Talk Network. That's over 50 stations strong. We're on a bunch of them all over the state of Michigan. We've been on WJRW 1340 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, WKLQ 1490 Muskegon, Whitehall on the west side of the state. We've got WYPV FM 94.5 in Mackinac City, has carried us, will carry us, has in the past. We've got stations up in Upper Peninsula on the Michigan Talk Network carrying us. And we also have the big flamethrower, our PBS affiliate, WKAR, AM 870 News Talk at Michigan State University, PBS. So glad to be on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays over there in East Lansing, the flamethrower, all the way to Lake Michigan. 102.3 FM is the simulcast, so you can pick that up. Again, thanks to Craig Stiles for supporting us, where we are making light of weighted decisions with Desideri Analytics. And lastly, I want to say, actually two last things. Steve and Ivy Gruber, thank you guys. Love you guys for putting us on the Michigan Talk Network, for continuing to believe in us and continuing to support us. We appreciate you very much, carrying us multiple times on the weekends all over the state. And, of course, we have 4 books on that thing called Amazon. Please go check those out. You can find us there, Thomas F. Matt, or you can go to our website, tommattshow.com, and away we go with that. Okay, Rob Helm's here today. Functional Remodeling, The Refired Life of Rob Helm, because Rob has multiple things going on, which is a really good thing. In today's society, the 21st century, you want to have multiple things going on. Before we get into the deep dive of the multiple things, let's talk specifically about functional remodeling. Now, Rob, explain to the listeners, because you and I had a conversation about this, and I have my functional fitness, and I thought it was pretty funny, but because you have your functional remodeling, I have my functional fitness, they kind of overlap. But give everybody a kind of a snapshot of what you mean by functional remodeling, and then we talk about the specializations that you do, helping people save money. Go right ahead, please.
Well, functional remodeling, we kind of coined that phrase just over the years that we have been working. As I stated earlier, our big core is customer service. And, through talking and through listening, we can learn a lot about the customer as well as what their desire is, right? And in that, I try to utilize previous experience working in different countries, working in different states. So seeing different types of remodeling or different types of construction, and then try to recommend what is the most sensible and most functional modification to an existing home or structure. Because why that's important is many times I have either went to a job that someone is already contracted to work on, and they've made modifications and things. And you may have seen, many people I'm sure have seen this and maybe haven't paid a lot of attention to it. But have you ever walked into a home or a building and noticed like structurally it was different? Like you'd walk in and it feels like, wait a minute, this opening is not in the right place, or this window has got a wall in front of it, or, just different things like that. And so what we do is we really look at the structure from a complete focus, if you will, and then try to dismantle the structure and make sure that the things that we are attempting to do as far as changing the structure flows with the structure. It flows with the cosmetic aesthetics of the structure, because what I like the most is when I put my hands on something, you can't really tell that it's not original. And that's what I really aim for. Not that it's not updated or what have you in that regard, but just not being able to see the difference. Because, for example, when people do flooring, a lot of people will, instead of taking up the floor so that you have a zero threshold, they'll put layers on to make the finished, floor flat or what have you. But ultimately, what happens is you start to build up the floor, and then you wind up with a threshold. And some of the experience that I have had also is I work with a lot of insurance companies to help people with disabilities gain more access to their homes. And so in doing that, it helps me think a little broader about changes because how those changes might impact future situations.
I like that handicap access stuff. That's really important to understand, and you can do all that. And what you're talking about I've seen this happen with flooring where people will they'll shim things instead of making it right in the first place,
right,
and spending the extra money in the first, you kind of nickel and dime things. We get a lot of this nickel and diamond going on, and as a licensed contractor, I'm sure you see this a lot, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And but what my goal is, and I've done this again. This is where customer service is so important to us. Is I've actually taken losses willingly to make sure that the job is right, as opposed to trying to shortcut. Because with a lot of contractors, and I'm a subcontractor as well as a primary contractor, so I've had the pleasure of working with subcontractors as well. And when there's dollars on the line, people are always trying to maximize their profit. And I'm a believer in, profit is important, but return profit is even more important. Long-term relationships, those kinds of things are more important to me, as well as when I walk away from a job, I want to be confident that it's safe, that the customer got what they paid for, and ultimately that they're happy with or beyond, because we try to exceed. That's what our real goal is to exceed those expectations.
Well, having pride, and I'll carry this through, Rob, because we're going to come up on break here, but having pride in your work as a skilled tradesperson, you may have to take a loss with some of this. You may have to make the customer happy and spend that extra money. But again, as you said, having the relationship, and that's why we want to have you on as a regular talking about, the DIY category on our radio show. How do we fix this? How do we not get overcharged? When we come back, everybody, we're going to talk specifically about kitchens, basements, and again, we're going to reiterate again the customer service, because customer service flows through all of what we're doing here. Matter of fact, we were just talking about perhaps Rob coming over here and giving me some ideas on our studio. Functional Remodeling, The Refired Life of Rob Helm. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our Segment 2 sponsor, Craig Stiles of Ameriprise Financial. For more information on services provided by Craig, please visit ameripriseadvisors.com/Craig.Stiles or by calling 517-483-4893. You're tuned in to The Tom Matt Show.
Third segment of The Tom Matt Show is sponsored by White Law. So happy to talk about that. Jamie was just on the previous show, as I mentioned in the beginning of this episode. White Law, they're the best. White Law PLLC, where justice meets compassion. Jamie's story is amazing. His story about how he got into the law business and his dad being a warden in a prison, but his dad being assaulted in a racially diverse situation in the 70s, coming from a biracial family. That was such a great story. And Jamie, he laid it all out. He told us the whole story. That was the first episode. And if you didn't catch that one, you want to check that one out, because especially trying to look for an attorney, if you want to build trust, you want to get to know people, that's how you get to know them a lot through our stories with this radio program. That's why I like doing this so much and giving our guests the opportunity to do the This Is Your Life in the beginning segment of the show so that you can learn and develop some trust as I do with our guests like Jamie. White Law is your advocate in times of need. He helps us. He sponsors us. He sponsors the Mad Dog Minutes as well. They are here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve, especially with the clergy abuse. And we talked about this at length in the previous episode. Check that one out because there's just a lot of layers to that whole situation with clergy abuse and why that there's so much attention that needs to be paid to this. Jamie talks about it. Tough topic, everybody. Very tough topic, but it's something that we can't run away from these tough topics. Reach out to White Law today for your free consultation. whitelawpllc.com, whitelawpllc.com, or call them at 517-777-9785. Thank you again to Jamie White, Christine White, for everything that they do to support us. Great friendship that we're developing, and they're the best. I mean, they're the best. You can't beat them. Again, White Law, 517-777-9785. Thank you again to Jamie and Christine White. All right. Functional Remodeling, the Refired Life of Rob Helm. You'll see why I'm calling it the added on that Refired Life portion of the title, everybody, here shortly. But before we go there, we're talking more on the Quality Vision Construction, Rob's company that he's built. He's been a general contractor for a long time, knows his stuff. He's said customer service about, 5 or 6 times so far. Probably say it 5 or 6 more times throughout the show because that's one of his key pillars for his business. But we're going to deep dive here on what Rob, he specializes in a few things. He'll do it all. All general contractors do. But Rob, you like to specialize in kitchens and basements, and you'll do bathrooms as well. But let's talk about kitchens because we had ours done. I wish I would have known you a few years ago because we dropped a lot of money on redoing our little house Lansing right here, this little tiny house, because I just hated the way this thing was laid out. Talk about kitchens and the remodels of kitchens, all the things that you run, all the trap doors that happen when you start tearing into an old house.
Oh, gosh. Well, I really have to say I like doing kitchens a lot. Reason why I like doing kitchens because, if there's anything in a house that's like a Lego, the kitchen is probably one of the ones that are most like a Lego because you got boxes or rectangles that have to go together ultimately to form a beautiful finish. And so that part I really get engaged with. Some of the things that I really think is important to be aware of if it's a DIY in particular, because a lot of contractors, well, let me not say that because some of them don't, but one of the things that I've encountered more than anything is base cabinets that are not installed at level. Right. And so what a lot of people will do when you're installing, the base cabinets are your lower cabinets, right? Those are the ones that sit on the floor that you'll have a sink in or that'll butt up to your refrigerator or stove. And what a lot of people do is they will put a level on it, horizontal, right? So the face of it looks level. The problem is that most people don't put the level going the opposite direction so that you can make sure from front to back that the cabinet is level. And why that's so important is because, like in the case of a sink or something along those lines, if you have a spill, right, and it's not on a level surface, the first thing it's going to do is run whatever direction that is sloped towards. And so what a lot of people do, because one of the other things that a lot of folks don't do is when they're replacing kitchen floors, they don't generally remove the base cabinets to do the floor. So you wind up with a thicker floor and then the cabinet kind of recessed into the floor. And so it makes it sometimes a bit of a challenge when you're changing out the cabinets to, have that exact space you need to be able to level it front to back. But those are things that are really crucial because the finished product, right, with your countertops, because like laminate countertops and things like that are a lot easier to work with than stone, right? If you're getting granites or anything like that, you really got to have a level surface for it to sit on. Otherwise, you run the chance of it breaking the countertop. So that's another reason why it's really important to level those out. And then, like I said, with the floor, I like to remove the base cabinet to put the finished floor underneath the cabinet. That way, the toe kick, which is the trim that goes in front of the cabinet, you don't have to cut that or anything. You can put it in and it fits nicely. Because again, if the cabinet is recessed, right, if it's sitting down in the floor, then you got to make that long cut to shorten that height so you can, so it just, those little things help to simplify that piece going together, or that kitchen going together.
Would you advise customers, if they're doing a kitchen and you're giving them an estimate, would you advise customers to replace the base cabinets and go that direction and go to that little bit of an extra expense just because of what you were just stating?
Well, if they were doing a complete change, it's one thing if you're refacing or just putting new doors or something on, then yeah, you can leave the actual cabinet part of it. But if you're doing a new, where you're removing the uppers and you're removing the lowers, it only makes sense. You're only talking about another 2 feet deep. So generally maybe 10 to 20 additional square feet for the average size kitchen, that as far as finished floor that you would have to do. Or even if you didn't want to do finished floor, you could raise the floor level so it's at the same height as the finished level. But another reason why I like to run that finished floor underneath is because a lot of people change cabinets, or change the design of it. And when you don't have a finished floor all the way to the wall, well, when you move that cabinet out, you're pretty restricted to putting something right back there, because now you got this empty space on the floor.
Right.
And if it's been 5 or 10 years, you're probably not going to get the same piece of tile and, or whatever type of floor that you're using.
What's the ratio, do you think, when people come in and ask you to reface cabinets or replace all of them? Is it about 50-50, or is there a standard?
You know what? I would say in the 20 plus years that I've been doing kitchens and bathrooms and things, I've probably built more custom cabinets than I have refaced cabinets. Generally, the people that I found to do that are usually like investors. And, back when people were buying a lot of investment properties and, fixing and flipping, those are generally the cases where they want to slap a coat of paint on them or do some kind of staining and just keep it moving. Generally for the homeowner, if they're going to live there, I have not, maybe someone else has a different experience, but I personally have not had that experience.
And when we did our kitchen, everybody, just to let you know, Rob, I'm going to carry this through because we're going to come up on break here in a second. But we did what Rob said. The whole thing for ours was the contractor told us that we would be done in a couple of weeks. We left town. We went to Wisconsin to our other home, came back in a couple of weeks, and we had no kitchen. I mean, we had just a open box with nothing in it. And to say the least, Sandy was not real thrilled about the whole situation, as I was not either. And then our air conditioning didn't work because they broke the air conditioning line to the thermostat. So that was another issue. But we had all the cabinets taken out and everything. But then they found pipe problems and they had other things that happened. We'll talk a little bit more of that when we come back, because we want to finish this thread with kitchens. Then we'll move into basements, everybody. If you're looking for functional remodeling, this is the show you want to listen to. Rob Helm's my guest, 20 years of experience, general contractor, the refired life of Rob Helm and his company, Quality Vision Construction. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our Segment 3 sponsor, White Law PLLC, where justice meets compassion. White Law is your advocate in times of need. We are here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Contact White Law today for your free consultation. Visit us at whitelawpllc.com or call 517-777-9785. This is The Tom Matt Show.
The fourth segment of The Tom Matt Show is sponsored by another great guy. I mean, we have so many good sponsors on this radio program. Not that we're full. We could always use more. But we are very much tied into the integrity of our sponsors because of the integrity of our radio program. We want you to be able to trust us, because when I do my reads or talks about our sponsors, I want you to know that we utilize their services. We believe in them, and you can trust these people. Brock Fletcher is the man, the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. And again, full disclosure, Mike Dedman, our buyer's agent for Little House Lansing. Thank you, Mikey, for doing all of that. And Brock sold Big House Holt. And you guys have heard me tell the story 100 times about how Brock gave me the unsolicited advice of selling big household. And believe me, it didn't go over very well at my house when I talked to Sandy. That's a fact, Jack. But he was right. He was right. He was right. He was right. And he can help you because we trust him, and so will you, with the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. Phone numbers coming at you here. Office is 517-853-6408. The super secret, not so super secret number to Brock's cell phone, 517-303-3262. If you use that number, text him, leave him a voicemail, tell him you heard it from Tommy. When you say Tommy, he knows it came from the radio show because all my radio friends call me Tommy, and that's totally fine. I think it's cool. But just say that so that he knows his investment with us is paying off, because I have, again, sent a lot of customers his way, just like we do with Jamie, just like we do with Craig, just like we do with Brock. That's the way it works, because I want you to get the best value, like we're going to do with Rob Helm, our guest today, who can help you with your construction issues at your home. You need to find these smart people who can save you money and can make you your value and make it turnkey. That's the whole thing about the KW Selling Team and kwsellingteam.com. That's where you can reach Brock. He's an investor. He spends a lot of money on marketing before you get the listing, before you give him that listing, before he starts to service your account. He will help you, no cost. And lastly, I want to remind you that if you've got a young person who's not going to college, coming out of high school, and they want to get some training, Brock has training programs that he will bring you in. He trains a lot of young people in the real estate industry, and he talks about this on previous episodes. Go check him out, because he talks about this and helping young people. Perhaps they don't want to go to college. That's fine. Get a skilled trade or get a skilled business, like getting a real estate license. You can do that at Keller Williams with Brock Fletcher. Okay, back to the show today. We're finishing a thread that we're talking with Rob Helm, Functional Remodeling, the refired life of Rob Helm. Finishing the thread of kitchens. We've had our kitchen done here at Little House. And Rob, you got a couple of last points you want to say to people about kitchens. We're talking about cabinets, uppers and lowers and floors and doors and level and stone and laminates and all this kind of stuff. I love talking about this kind of stuff. But what's the thing that you really want to impress on people when they're thinking about doing these kitchen jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I definitely think is really critical, and it might be a little bit of bias because I'm an athlete as well, but one thing that I've seen a tremendous amount of is, people buying very creative handles and knobs for their cabinets. And one thing that I just want to caution people to be very, very careful of is to be conscious about the ability of those handles hooking you or hitting you in the knees, because I have damaged many of my outfits and I have whacked myself in places where, I have old injuries and things like that, because, a lot of them, they have hooks on the edges or just all these different design handles. And it's a shame because they can get really, really costly, just to find out down the line that you probably could have went with something a little cheaper and a little less fancy and been way better off as far as protecting yourself and other people.
And let me tell you guys, what Rob's saying is so spot on. We had the same problem when we went in and we had to do all the selections for our handles and the cabinets and all this stuff. And it's analysis paralysis. There's so many choices. It's like overwhelming. So be aware, talk to your contractor, take Rob's advice, and get something. Might look simple at the store. You might say, hey, that one's so cool looking. But like Rob's saying, you might be creating a potential problem down the road or replacing them down the road. So sometimes it might be a little easier just to go simple. Let's talk about basements. When you run into basements now, in the Midwest, we have basements. A lot of places in the country, they don't, but we're very fortunate that we can have basements. Basements got to be tricky. And so please, let's talk about some of the horror stories, some of the tips that you'd like to leave our listeners with on basement remodels and everything, all the services that you provide for basement remodels. Rob, go ahead, please.
Absolutely. Well, as far as services, we do complete basement refinishing. So that's everything, from the framing, drywall, flooring, et cetera. And we're happy to help there. A couple of horror stories. Well, everyone pretty much knows what a sump pump is, but for those who don't, sump pumps are generally in the basement, meant to pump water around the foundation away from the house so that it doesn't seep up through your floor or through any other cracks that you might have. Um, and we had a contractor. This was multiple contractors working on the job site. We were doing it's called legato flooring. Well, it used to be called legato. It's probably changed now because this has been 10, 15 years ago. But it's carpet squares, right? That they pretty much advertise them to put them in the basement because you can easily remove them, blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, the plumbers forgot to plug in the sump pump. And we had laid out all the floor. We put the trimming and everything in. And, so we were pretty much done. And like the last thing we were going to maybe come back and do, if I remember correctly, was like caulk around the trim or something. And when we came back, there was like 6 to 8 inches of water. And at first, you couldn't tell because the carpet was floating. Because legato, it has like a foam backer, and if you fit it tight, it kind of stays together. Well, when we went to step down to, we noticed like, wait a minute, that floor seems a lot higher to that first step than it used to be. And when you stepped on it, it was like you went down into it, and so that was, a pretty bad situation because there was no, cleaning the carpets or what have you. We had to replace all that again, along with removing drywall and et cetera, et cetera. So moral of the story, make sure you plug back in the sump pump anytime you ever are servicing it because it will always be a problem if you don't. In addition to that, one thing that I learned kind of from similar situations where either people have very high humidity in the basement or the foundations will leak, or not every home has a sump pump, so some just rely on the floor drain, that kind of thing. And so what I have found a lot of when we have like go and maybe do insurance disaster recovery work or what have you, is when we remove the drywall, generally it's like the lower 2 feet maybe, or maybe a little bit more depending on how bad the water damage is. Every single time I've done that, I've always found mold along the lower, probably I would say anywhere from 3 to maybe 6 inches of the framing. So if it's furred out, then it's just like your 1x, or if it's, traditional framing where you got 2x4s, that whole area is affected. And even if your basement doesn't flood, the moisture kind of in the house builds up in those areas. So what I do and have been doing for many years is I buy latex like Kills or a type of primer like that is a mold blocker. And then that will be on a new install, or if we're doing a repair, I always spray it up 12 inches from the floor with this primer all along the whole wall. And what I found is anytime I've ever had to go back, maybe somebody had another issue with water or what have you, when you remove it, there's no mold. So for people who have, issues with allergies and things like that, it's just another way, kind of a trade secret that can help extend the longevity of your wood and then also help in regard to minimizing that mold.
These kind of tips are gold, everybody. They're gold. And I was exposed to black mold Stachybotrys at the university. That's another whole long story, but I'm telling you, you do not want to play with mold. Mold can be a big, big problem. So, Rob, we're going to come up a break here, and I'm going to carry this through here. Let me reset everybody. Functional remodeling. So far, Rob and I have talked about kitchens and some of the little trapdoors. Again, this is high altitude, so we're not getting into like a whole show on kitchens. But when we have Rob come back, we will deep dive. We've already started talking about how do we continue to build this story so that Rob can help you, at least through his information, gathering information from professionals like this. Even if you don't use a Rob Helm service, at least you know the questions to ask and or the number of people to call. And when we come back from break, I'm gonna get with Rob. We're gonna give you all his contact info so you can reach out to him, and it'll all be good. Functional remodeling, the refired life of Rob Helm. You're listening to the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our segment 4 sponsor, Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Tom Matt Show, fifth segment. If you miss any portion of the radio program, please go to our website, tommattshow.com. That's where our contact box is. That's where you can get a hold of us, topics, questions, anything for our guests. For those of you who are listening on radio, you got to go check out the video because I'm wearing my all sports headgear right now. And I want you to see what this looks like because we're going to talk about the refired life of my friend Rob Helm here. We've been talking about functional remodeling, but Rob's an inventor and he's been inventing things throughout his life. He's that kind of creative soul, and that's what makes him a good contractor because he can see the vision. You got to be able to see the final product before you can develop the idea to work on the final product. And so I put on my all sports headgear, which is I've worn it in the gym. It's very cool. It's got so many functional uses. Rob, first, before we start talking about all sports, let's do the plug. Tell everybody how they can find you, phone numbers, all that good stuff, and let's go from there.
Okay, awesome. Well, as the wonderful Tom says, Quality Vision Construction is the name of our company. Our website is qualityvisionconstruction.com. My direct contact, as well as the primary number for the company, is 517-204-9022. And you can text, you can call, and we are happy to serve you in any ways that we can. We pride ourselves on answering questions. So if you're one of those people who has questions, we're the place to call. We're happy to do that. In addition to our website and my phone number, you can also, if you want to reach me directly, my email is robert.helm@qualityvisionconstruction.com, and I'll be happy to answer those questions for you.
And if you missed that portion, everybody, or you're wondering, you could send a note to our contact box on the website, of course, and I will forward that over to Rob anytime, no problem at all. And my phone number's there. Full transparency, you guys know how to get a hold of me. And if you're looking for, perhaps you want to get some of we're going to talk about all sports, the headgear that Rob has created, this invention that he came up with is super cool. Let's talk about it. Your vision with this, and I read it in your bio, but I didn't want to splash it out before you had a chance to talk about it. Take a minute because you got plenty of time here. We're going to talk this whole segment about your creativity and some of the things that you have invented. But let's start with all sports first. Where did it come from? And what's your vision? Explain it to people who couldn't see me wearing mine.
Well, where it came from, as Tom mentioned earlier, I'm an athlete, a retired athlete, I should say now.
I would say refired, brother.
Yeah, hey, retired and refired. That's it. So I'm going with that. I love it. But anyway, the All Sports headgear is a athletic towel. It was created for the purposes of helping people stay warm when they're sitting on the sidelines, also to stay dry, so that you can basically be at your peak when it's your opportunity to play. It's what brought it about. Actually, I was just hanging out with a friend of mine who is a retired and soon to be refired boxer and MMA fighter. And funny enough, one of his pastimes is seamstress. He knits and he sews. So anyway, we were watching highlights of Steph Curry, and he's the one who's responsible for me coming up with that idea. Because when I saw him leaving the gym, he put this towel over his head and tucked it in his shirt and, and just kind of made his way out. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool idea. And I started thinking about all the ways that it could be useful or functional. And at that moment, I was like, man, if there was something that was like specifically designed for that purpose, what would it look like? And so what I did was just grab the Sharpie and I grabbed an old bath towel that I had and just started kind of drawing on a little pattern or whatever. And so my buddy and I cut it out, and, his seamstress skills, I'm fitting it and he's sewing it and then he's fitting it and I'm making suggestions. So, in about a half hour or so, we had our first prototype. And it was just called the All Sports when we first did it, because we said, oh, man, it's a towel for all sports, And then as we, sat there and talked about it more and more, it became the All Sports headgear, because it was like, man, we started thinking about all these different ways you could use it on your head. So It was a little complicated because, when you say headgear, people think of helmets and, hats and all that type of stuff. And so that all sports headgear kind of had to form its own industry. And, so now athletic head towels are like, it's a new industry. There's a lot of them out there, different styles. Ours is still very unique because of the attributes that we have had and designed into the product, from the hair opening in the back that allows you to, if you got long, locks or long braids or just long hair in general, and you want to wear your hair back or hold it back, you can easily do that by pulling it through the hole in the hood that's designed for that. In addition to that, we took it a step further and added the pocket in the neck and the pocket between the shoulders, because a lot of athletes wind up with shoulder pains and upper back pains from different types of activities. And so there you could put a hot pack or you could put a cold pack and be able to, get you some comfort while you either waiting to play or if you're sitting at home or wherever you might be. So that is really the all sports with it, the foundation of it. And since then, my creative spirit and creative soul has continued to develop more and more ways of using it and designs or adaptations, I should say, for the all sport, because now we have it with the face net. So if you're a hunter or if you're a person who likes to fish and bugs and stuff get in your face, it's perfect. You can easily tuck it in and, it takes care of that. So it's morphed from that towel into really a universal item that could be used a lot of different ways. And so that's been very exciting to see that change like that. And that's pretty much how we came up with it. That's how it's being used currently. And, we've actually had a lot of people starting to utilize them for what we call like a recovery towel. We've had a few customers who have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's kidney dialysis. If I'm not, no, wait a minute, that's what you go to get. So they got kidney problems and they go to get dialysis. I guess that's what it is. And so a lot of them were cold, I guess, because when you're doing the blood transfusion, your temperature drops pretty significantly. And so a lot of them were using it and they said, man, it's unbelievable how it holds the heat into your body. And really, so we've had a lot of people doing that. And then people now that have either recovered from cancer or are currently like dealing with cancer, I guess a lot of them can't get exposed to the sun. And so having that all sport, especially with the face net and stuff, it protects them from the UV rays. And so, we've had a lot of people use it. So I guess I'm saying that to say that, this multi-purpose towel there's just so many ways of utilizing it, way more than I ever imagined. So
it's crazy. When I first saw it, I didn't get it. But then as I used it and I wore it to the gym and I started playing around with it, it's like Rob's saying. Rob Helm's our guest today, everybody. Functional Remodeling, the Refired Life of Rob Helm, talking about his invention with the all sports headgear. This very unique invention that you came up with the way it hangs on you, it's very light. And when I saw the video that you posted on TikTok with the face net, I'm like, because I do the Hunter Not Hunter episodes on this radio show, Rob, and I have a lot of people in our family who are hunters. I'm not. Sandy's a fisher person. I'm not. But I've been out in boats and I've been in situations where, bugs are a problem. And with that face net, and then the cooling factor to keep that head, to keep that sun off your head, especially with like hair like I've got where it's thin on top and you got to watch your exposure to the sun. It's very, very cool, very, very unique. So I applaud you for this. Plus, Rob made me one customized, put my number from football on it. I didn't know he was going to do this. He asked me the number. Then he put the refinement zone and he put Papa Tom on there and my refired life and, just stitched him in there along with his logo. We got to get you in touch. I told you on the phone, and we got to get you in touch with Desmond Ferguson because, once basketball season gets over with, we can get a hold of him and you're going to find this stuff all over the place, and they're customizable for your team, for the colors. And that's the cool thing about it. It's very, very flexible, but I love what you said about multi-purpose, man. And we got to find value in what we're doing. Right. Just give us a ballpark. If you had to come up with custom for like a team, what would an individual cost be on something like that, Rob? Just to kind of throw that to you? I know I didn't prep you for that one, but give us a ballpark. It doesn't have to be exact, but what would people be looking at just so that they know?
Well, if the base price for the product, if we're selling them wholesale, usually, which is what we would do for a team because they're getting a number of them, that cost is around $15 a piece. And then if you want to have them customized, depending on what that customization is, because if it's just numbers and words, that's a lot easier to do than like if you have images, that require digitizing and things of that nature, then there's a cost to digitize. But generally speaking, you'd be around about $30 a piece if you're going to have something customized for, the team. And that's where you could get the next number and so forth. So
you buy ball caps nowadays and they cost $30. I mean, so you're talking right in line with a quality. It's a quality product. All right, Rob, I got about 30 seconds to go, and I want to get a quick takeaway from you from your first visit. What would your takeaway be for this first visit?
For this first visit, I would say that it has been very informative. I think that Quality Vision as a company focused on customer service is in alignment with that, as our goals are to educate and to be a part of the community at large.
Perfect, man. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want you on board with us. We want to be of service to you. We are servant leaders, just like Rob Helm is with his company, Quality Vision Construction. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Again, thanks to my friend Rob Helm for coming in, Sandy Mack, Craig Stiles, Brock Fletcher, Jamie White, Christine White, everybody, all the students that have worked with us. We will talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. And lastly, I want to thank the man, the legend, Mitch Anderson. We're out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Ark of All.